You're in the mix.
SKM presents Strictly for the Music Podcast. You are now live with the #1 podcast for all upcoming artists worldwide.
It's the real deal.
Strictly for the Music Podcast, a platform for all upcoming artists of all genres. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we got the COCEO, songwriter, vocal artist, Faces of ENT Music. You already know, the Peazy Show, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest from Alabama, New York, mr.jai.gunz.
What it do?
I want to say real quick, man, thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for letting us get the inside depth exclusive interview with mr.jai.gunz. So no further ado, man. Let's get right into this. Describe your music from the beginning. How did it all start?
Well, I've always been in love with music. You know what I mean? Since I was a kid. But like for me, music really got, interesting when I started, after 15, after I started writing. I was infatuated with with the lunchtime ciphers, you know what I'm saying? The lunchtime ciphers was my shit. So like we used to go to lunch and shit at school, and we was in high school and shit. And we all be in this little huddle and be just a bunch of dudes rapping. It would go from that to like it would turn into a battle, and then we just all chill and maybe even cut school and smoke some weed later or something, you know what I'm saying? So it was kind of cool, the whole transaction. And then as I got older, I got more interested. A lot of people started telling me they liked what they heard from me and everything that I was doing. So I just really kept writing and putting music together, you know what I'm saying? Lyrically, I just really wasn't studio bound until probably 19. I was probably my first time hitting the studio. I had been in the studio at 16, my very first time, but 18, 19 was when I was actually doing my own projects and shit like that. So that was really when it started actually taking effect for me.
All right, man. So let's go back, man, and man, let's pick up from the first album you dropped when you're about 18, 19 years old. Talk about that. Talk about the name of it and what was the concept behind the album.
Wow. So the very first song that I did was actually a track that I recorded with my cousin who used to manage me at one point back in 2001. And it was actually in 2002, so it was 2002. So it was pretty early in the career, and I remember the song was called Word Bond. It was one of my most impactful songs. A lot of people liked it. It took off as far as like a lot of people noticing it. They like, yo, who is that kid on the track? And I was going by the name Jay Peazy for a while, you know what I'm saying, when I first moved up here back home to New York. So a lot of people didn't know that name, but it stuck between that name and then Jai.gunz. Jai.gunz was a solidified name after I kind of like migrated north of where I live now and started working with a group called Twin Gats. Still committed to them boys. One of them stopped rapping. He's a family man now, but you know what I mean? We still got 2 out of the 3.
That's dope, man. That's dope. So JPC, aka Jai.gunz, you already know, man. You're a co-CEO, man, of Faces of ENT, correct?
Yeah, Faces OENT Music Group. I'm trying to work on launching the actual building for it so we can have a stable, landing spot for everybody to come through and want to record or be recruited, things of that nature. But it's everything right now working off online and shit. So I talked to a lot of different artists. We kind of like socialize. I want them to recognize friendship first before they recognize the business sides of it, because I'm not in it for the money at this point. In my career, I've always been about the music,
Yeah, man, definitely, man. So let me ask you this, man. So how many years do you have you been doing this, man. So you said 15 years old, man. You know,
Yeah, 15.
It seems like a long career you had, man. What was the ride at first, man, and where's the ride at right now?
Well, it's been up and down, really, man. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I, had a few attempts. Like, I tried to audition to Dungeon Family. I got boxed. I got beat out by Killer Mike. Shout out to Killer Mike. In the little audition and shit. So it was no biggie on that one. That was like the very first time I had an offer for a major label. And then ever since then it's been like just drifting, trying to find myself, you know what I mean, and understanding the music as I go along. So by the time I hit like 17, 18, and I started working with my cousin up here in Albany, she actually got me my copyrights and everything through ASCAP and shit, so I could go out here on my own and actually start trying to make moves and shit, just so people wouldn't, you know what I mean, screw over the kid, you know what I mean? Because that's something that a lot of artists don't really realize when they doing their music, you know what I'm saying? And I, she told me the game real early and shit. But she used to be a DJ, so you know what I mean. That was one of the biggest key things that she did for me. And as far as you know what I mean, just rise and fall. Like I started getting back onto the music probably 2016. Like was when I first started running back into the music because I had kind of put it down for a minute. I had a kid, back and forth in and out of jail and shit like that. So kind of had to put shit on pause for a while. You know what I mean? So
wow, bro.
Between that crazy shit, you know what I'm saying? And then,
can I ask you a question, bro?
I would settle down. What's up?
What was your mindset? Like you said, you were focusing on the music and then you had a kid and you were going in and out of jail, man. How did that lead you into getting off the track, man?
Well, honestly, you know what I mean? Gang life will do that for you, man. Like that was the other part of the life that I wasn't, I mean, always open to tell a lot of people, man. By 15, I was a gangbanger. You know what I'm saying? I was banging hard. And, it wasn't too much of nothing they could tell me. So it seemed like every time I would interact with people or meet new people, they would always be affiliated. You know what I'm saying? So they would catch me just off of my associations and affiliations with other people, and they gravitated to me. And then the fact that I rap was sort of like a bonus to them. Oh, we got one of ours that rap, you know what I mean? And they actually do good. So it was, you know what I mean? It became one of those scenarios. But I mean, I appreciated it. I did. I appreciated the companionship because as a friend as a person who didn't have friends growing up, and all the people that I considered friends were really just like, you know what I mean, kids that used to pick on me all the time. So I tried to like be their friend and shit. I was one of those kids. I always tried to be friends with you, then I got picked on. Then I got talked about. Then I got a whole bunch of shit going on with me. So then by the time I hit like middle school, high school, I just snapped. I was like, fuck it. I'm not going to let y'all keep talking shit about me. So, and I went from that way all the way to fuck left. So, you know what I'm saying? Shit just kind of broke out. And then on and off, like I would try to do good. Before my son came, I was having, a lot of different things going on. I was trying to get my shit together, working, do music is still, you know what I mean? Things weren't looking too good. I was kind of homeless. I had to run with that for a while, being homeless and, doing shit like that. So, I mean, it's been, like I said, it's been an up and down battle for me to stay on point with music. But the only reason why I was off track is because I never really had anyone who invested in my career. You know what I'm saying? And when I said I wanted to make this my career, people laughed. You know what I mean?
So what is it like now, man, that you already built the foundation of your platform, man, and you actually got, I don't know if it's a show or what is it, like a podcast, the Peazy Show, right?
Yeah, the Peazy Show. I did that during the pandemic. Actually, that was something that I came up with during the pandemic. It was maybe August, July, or something like that. It was sometime around in that time when I started thinking about doing it. And I had already been conversating with Matter of fact, it was early. It might have been even earlier than that. But from my understanding, I think I started it around like probably a little bit after the pandemic got kicked off here and they shut down the states. So it was more or less like just a way for me to socialize with people, get people connected, talking to a lot of other artists because I used to do the competition weekly called Beat of the Week, where I started getting back into the groove of music and shit through that because I started rapping on there every week. And, it got to a point where at first it was just me tapping around, testing to see if I could still do it. And then I actually started sitting down and recording because one of my biggest challenges was how was I ever going to get back into into writing if I can't see? Because that's the key thing that I had to had to use to reinvent myself because I haven't always been blind.
Oh,
You know
really?
what I'm saying? Yeah. So I mean, like I lost my vision in 2014. You know what I'm
Damn.
saying?
So this has happened recently.
Right, almost 8 years ago.
How you coping with that?
Spinal meningitis. Yeah. It's weird. Like it's one of those things you don't really hear too often that happens to people. But like you know what I'm saying, I was born with a weak immune system. So maybe a few years ago, me and this girl were living in this trailer, and she had it was something. The trailer was old. The trailer was old. It was pretty damn small. It was a 2-bedroom trailer. It really didn't have enough room for us because it was me, her girl, her daughter, and her friend living with her 5 kids, which the kids were out, for the summer at that time that we moved into the apartment or that trailer or whatever. So I mean, it was a lot of going on at that time. But for the most part, yeah, it was there was like black mold in the house, in the lining of the walls and the interior walls of the trailer, and it started actually fumigating the house, and I didn't realize that because the room I was in, I just didn't pay no mind. I got in the house, I go to bed, I wake up like nothing happened. And all of a sudden it started hurting. It started coming in as like really strong headaches that would start in the back of my head, like right around the base of your neck where your skull meets your neck and shit. So shit like that was the reason why these things turned into what they turned into. And then ultimately I had a buildup of fluid in my brain, and it's crushed my ocular nerve. So yeah,
Damn, bro.
yeah, like it's crazy because like along with the fact that I'm blind, I have little to no feeling in my fingers. You know what I'm saying? So I have nerve damage on top of being blind. But I had to kind of like work my way out of that because after sitting in hospice care for 3 months, and people I was like talking to or that would talk to me, like a week later they'd be dead. That shit started depressing me.
Damn.
It was depressing the shit out of me. So I was like, yo, I got to get out of here. And after I got out of there, it took me like 3 months to get back on my feet where I can get up and walk around and shit. So after I got on my feet, I started focusing on what I wanted to do from there. Once I get myself in at what I can consider 100% for me, and my main thing came back to me. It was like, listen, you ain't gonna never forget about music. And that's something that was said in my head, you know what I mean, to me. And it's like, yo, you ain't gonna never forget about music, no matter how much you want to. And it often kept showing signs like, yo, I'd hear a song, I'd be like, man, I could have done that shit so much more justice. Somebody just get me in the studio, And then it just got to a point where I was just like fed up with that. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this myself. So, I found a way, thank God for BandLab, you know what I mean? Because when BandLab came around, I was still trying to figure out how to get back and forth to the studio, paying for studio time and shit.
Yeah, man. Thank God for BandLab, man. So my next question, man. How did you discover BandLab?
Oh man, with BandLab, what's crazy about that is I was working I was recording my music on I was recording verses for this contest. It was called Beat of the Week. Shout out to the creators of Beat of the Week too, because they actually got me really, really influenced in the music. Um, guys like Trey Real from Cali over there in LA, and DJ Journey there. They got me started with they got me hooked up by telling me, look, if you want to get back, if you want to just, vocally record something, or even just, try it out as recording, it actually worked, wonders for them, because they used a lot of like vocal samples that they pulled from BandLab for their beats. So I was like, okay, I see what y'all got going on here. And immediately I started, I downloaded the app and I was like, listen, I'm going to try this. At first, I didn't know what the hell I was doing because, being blind, there's a lot of stuff involved in it. You have to listen, you got to hear all these things. But then with BandLab, there's probably a lot more icons than there are actual buttons with names. So there's really a different world when you actually utilizing it, the way I do, as opposed to other people, because a lot of people that can actually see the platform, they still don't know how to use it. I've sent it out to a bunch of people. They say the same thing. They're like, yo, bro, what the hell is this? How do you even use this thing? How do you make songs like this? You know what I mean? I don't even know how the hell I'm doing it. I can see. And I'm like, dude, just read it, if you can't do anything, just listen to the tutorials, But yeah, like, shout out to my folks over through Beat of the Week. A lot of the artists that I met through there actually still use BandLab. They record their music that way, and they're doing really well right now.
Yeah, man, dope. All right, man. So let me ask you this, man, about your podcast. What is the topics you discuss on your platform, and what can the audience expect from your show, man?
Well, for my show, I just want to have a socializing conversation, whether it's about politics or it's about relationships, just everyday shit. You know what I'm saying? And occasionally we have Freestyle Fridays. We have Wednesdays. We usually throw up like New Music Wednesdays, where if any artist has music, they want to talk about some joint. They want to talk about their new music, and play it one time. You just send it in. I also have I have a couple other segments. Like I had a segment called Pre-Game Studio Thursday, where artists could plug it. Artists could, click in with me on IG, and if they're going to the studio or if they're in the studio, practice on their work, you know what I'm saying? Spit some bars for us to show us what you got, and we can give you tips on what your music sounds like, to the listeners. Or even like, for example, Talk About It Tuesday, I usually have a topic on deck. Mondays is Motivation Mondays, stuff like that. So Saturdays would be my open Saturdays would be an event we like to call Saturday Night Cypher. You know what I mean? So it was a big event. It actually started with a bunch of us from the platform Beat of the Week getting together on my page, and we just had a whole, 3 hour session of just us spitting freestyles in the cycle, And that's kind of the shit I like to do. It's just everything that involves like speaking to the people that follow and the people that listen to my music, along with just meeting new people and introducing them to conversation and topics that you may not even talk about only, but to your family in close corners.
That's dope, man. That's dope. So you do this Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Man, how do you keep up and stay consistent with your show, man?
I'm gonna be honest. Like I've been off air for a while, actually, because last time I aired was what was it last? I think it was last Friday. Actually, last time I aired. But before that, it's been a while because I took a break because I wasn't really seeing a whole lot of traffic. So I mean, at the end of the day, it can be a little depressing at times when you don't see nothing going on. Your activity is low, and there's really little to no people coming in, and you kind of feed off of the energy of the audience that comment and respond to anything that you're talking about. And if you have no audience, then you really have no way of conversating or making a show. So a lot of that happened to be the reason why I took a break, over the last couple of months of the year of last year. Cause I started up started back up in October last year, but then I just, kind of broke it down again. And I've been just popping up here and there. But normally when I pop up on a rando, you know what I mean? A lot of people start to show up. They like, oh shit, what's up with him? It's been a while. I haven't seen him in a minute. But for the most part, I'm considering bringing the show back together, in the upcoming weeks maybe, because I haven't had a whole lot of like traffic for it. But at the end of the day, I have noticed that a lot of people do pass through. So that's enough for me to even want to keep investing in the show, because I said I appreciate talking to people. I know I'm in a situation where, as far as my health is concerned, I have to be careful about that, because I strain myself. You know what I mean? And I don't want to strain myself. You know what I mean? And that's a strenuous situation. Even just sitting in this chair, you know what I mean, like I'm doing right now, talking to you, it can be strenuous if you do this for an hour, or even 2 and 3 hours at a time a day.
Yeah. Yeah, man, definitely. All right, man. So what makes you different from other artists, man?
Well, I don't know. I can't say I'm the first blind black rapper, because there's plenty of those guys out there. There's plenty of those guys out there. Oz Squad, shout out to Oz Squad. They definitely doing it up, But I mean, I'm a unique artist myself anyway, in a way, because of the fact that I came from, a background of artistry in the music where I was at in my position in life, I shouldn't be here. You know what I mean? I should have been dead at least 3 different times in my life. I just feel like, my music speaks for itself. If you like it, you love it, and I love it more. You know what I mean? When you love it, that's my thing. I feel like I can be as unique as anyone else, but I don't want to be like everyone else. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people gravitate to me, because I just don't want to be like everybody else. I don't want to follow in the trends. I don't want to listen. I don't want to be the next trap rap star, type of shit. That's not my field. That's not my field. I'm not into the drill. I was born in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm more of I reflect more with the 90s and early 2000s in music. You know what I mean?
With what you got going on, man, your music, and on top of that, you got a show, man, and man, that's a lot on your plate, man. And I'm asking you, man, how do you stay motivated?
I got kids, and I don't have them. I don't have them in my square all the time. But you know what I mean. I have to keep up with them, and in order to keep up with them, I got to be mobile. So, I mean, between doing and dealing in that realm of life, you know what I'm saying, and taking care of the family life all the time, I'm always moving anyway. I'm actually about to go back to work soon. As soon as I get through with this training program that they got me in. But yeah, it's just like, with the fact that, I feel like, you know what I mean, I'm just like dedicated to what I do as far as music. I love being a person that gets to speak to people too. You know what I mean? Bro. Especially when, I get to hear people saying things, I hear people talking about good things and interesting concepts on stuff. Show me something I don't know. And I may be blind, but I've seen a lot before I lost it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, my whole thing is like, just give me something of substance. I've always been a person that's got a good ear to listen, and motivation is all in the mind for me. It's like, yo, if you motivated, there ain't nothing gonna stop you from what you want to do. And always, if you're pursuing something like music, never stop moving, because a shark, that's his life. He can't stop moving. If he stops moving, he's dead. You dig? And that's kind of how you have to be in the music.
You have to be all in. You can't have one foot out and one foot in. You gotta be all in, dog. So, bro, all right, man. Growing up, man, you said that you were traveling back and forth to different states, man. what was it? How was it? What was it like? And how did you adapt to being in different, like, communities and being able to be open, bro? Like, how did that affect you, man?
Well, yeah. So that's the weird part about it. I was like I said before, I was an oddball. I got picked on a lot. Growing up and shit. So from when I first moved, because I was born here where I live, right here in Albany. So when I first moved, my very first place I moved to was in North Carolina. My father was there. He lived in a small town called Shelby, and it was weird. It was a whole different world for me because I was a city boy. I was a little city boy. I didn't know anything about the countryside. I'd only seen the shit tight. I'd only seen that shit in movies. So from that point, but it was a whole culture shock for me at first, and then as I got used to what I started seeing and growing into what was going on around me and starting to learn, you know what I mean? It was a development stage for me, and it was just like, okay, now I guess that's what I was, that's why I'm like so sociable to people, seemingly, because I've had to reintroduce myself so many times to people, and it's just a format that I'm used to. So like that was one of the bigger things that actually happened with me, which was a father problem, because even though my father, he moved around more than my mother did. My mother lived in one spot for a long enough time for me to actually develop friends at one point. So I have friends that I grew up with. I went to school with these cats, but we weren't really close because when I first moved to Atlanta, they didn't like New York. So I was just like the oddball out because every time they heard me, they like, oh, look at this Yankee. They ain't talking to this Yankee. I used to get jumped, chased home from school, what I mean? Shit like that. You know
Atlanta?
what I mean? Facts. In Atlanta, I used to get chased home from school, jumped all the time. Like I picked on all the time. Like I tried to be the nice kid. I was the kid that was always nice to people, and everybody just like was like, "Oh, word, he's a sucker. We finna get his ass." I mean,
Damn.
so it took me actually getting over it. It took me getting fed up with that shit to actually get to a point where people started really looking at me like, "Yo, that's that dude right there. I fucks with him." You know what I'm saying? Like, cause other than that, it was just a problem. We constantly argumentative, and it was always combative. I would try to be, friendly and have fun with people, and that was my whole thing. Like, I can get along with anybody. Really don't have a problem with nobody, but it's just when you have ill will intentions, I can feel it, and I didn't have to be blind to feel it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could tell something was off about you, but it would only show itself in a more latter sense. Like it would be like later on down the line, we probably been hanging out for about an hour and a half or some shit, and all of a sudden, I get this weird feeling. Never knew what it was at first, and now I start to understand it. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was just a whole bunch of trauma for me. Like, and I tried to be the good kid, tried to do good things, but I had to live through, trauma in my situation because I had, a father who was military based. He was, a military, he was military man. When he was released from the military, he still kept that military mentality. So, you know what I mean? His disciplinary actions was the same way as his living was military, you know? So I went through a lot of that. I mean, got called everything under the damn sun like a drill sergeant would to his damn pupil or to his, privates on in training camp, and shit. So I went through a lot of that, and it just kind of made me thick skinned for a while, you know what I mean? And I just got to a point where I was like, I don't want to be feeling like this, but I had to be somewhere. I had to find somewhere, somebody. And it ended up being after I got arrested and I was sitting upstate. I was sitting in a YDC in Georgia, serving time there, and fucking I met a gang member, and this motherfucker's like, "Yo, man, you looking for family? We got you. Bro. Don't worry about it. We'll be your We'll be all the family you need." You know what I mean? Loyalty is key, though. I said, say less, man. I really have nothing though. You know what I mean? My own brother and my sister, they was doing their own thing. So I felt like I was alone anyway, you know? And I was the baby of the clique. So I was the kid, I was the youngest of my mother's kids. So I had to do something. I just felt like I was left out of a lot of shit. So I wanted to be involved. And that kind of helped me to get back into that mode of being involved. I took a lot of things in strength, like, you know what I mean? Ass whippings and all. You know what I'm saying? Some of it was just like a whole bunch of folks telling me, you gotta stand up for yourself. I said, yeah, I know. And I do, but I don't feel like it's necessary. I was like Martin Luther King, non-violence, man. That was my kid. That was my childhood life. It was really just like non-violent. Y'all made me violent. You know? So everything that came out from that point was just like, okay, well, I'm just giving you what you gave me.
Hell yeah. All right, man. So let's dig deep down into your catalog, man. Faces of Entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Elaborate on it, big dog.
Facesofent, man. Man, I'm gonna be honest. Like the very first time when I created the name, when I came with the name itself, it was like I wanted something to reflect the artist. You know what I mean? I wanted something that would reflect artists and not just myself. You know what I mean? Because versatility was always around me. It was always an artist. There was always a singer. There was always a person that was in love with the music, that loved to talk about things, or that loved to expand on their various skills. You know what I mean? So for me, I was very in tune with that, and I listened to the fact that being an artist means to me that you don't always have to put a face to it. You know what I mean? And the music is your face. You know what I'm saying? So at first, when I first created Faces OENT Music Group, it was initially supposed to be Faceless Records, but somebody has that name. So
okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That name was used. So when I was going through the licensing for the name, I said, you know what? All right, we're just gonna use Faces OENT. And Faces OENT no less was used too. So I said, okay, well, Faces OENT Music Group. There's something for you. You know what I mean? Because actually Faces of Entertainment is also another name that was used as well. So I was just like, scrolling around, scrambling, trying to find a name that would really suit what I was looking for as an idea. And with Faces OENT Music Group, it gives it a broader perspective because I'm hoping to recruit artists that want to be involved in my movement. And my movement doesn't involve you signing a contract to be under a label that's going to enslave your contract. It's going to enslave your music to the label. I want you to have your rights to your music. I want you to know what it means to be, covered, copywritten, and legally out here putting your shit together. You know what I'm saying? And in order to do that, I have to give you the privileges you need, even if it means not getting the money out of it myself for it, which I don't, like I said, I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for the fact that music is something that we should not isolate people from. We should always give it to people, and artists that want to make it, artists that are good enough and should be given the credit given to them to get it, I feel like they should be given the opportunity. Whether it's, you know what I mean, giving them the studio time they need or just giving them the tools they need to be independent.
That's dope, man. So, coming out hard, 2015, 20 songs, an hour and 11 minutes, man. Play No Games by Scientific.
Yeah, that was my cuz right there. That actual album was not my album, all right? So that album had a various amount of artists on it. So there was a lot of different artists on that album, including myself, right? I released that. When I released it, and I had to realize that I came up with the name, and I just said to myself, "Shit, I probably shouldn't have brought it out on my name." But then I listened to myself, and I said, "You know what? A lot of these songs were from a recent mixtape that I had released in 2011. Actually, it was 2010 when I released that mixtape. But I was shopping it out of my house. I was shopping it like, burning CDs and selling it for folks, handing them out or selling it. I mean, so it was started off like that. That album in general, that most of those songs coming out hard were like excerpts from that mixtape. And on top of that, there were artists that I had got in touch with from Facebook, Twitter, and they were really like inspiring artists that I still follow today, like 103rd Street Inc., my boy Bumpy, they don't see me rolling, you know what I mean? Like there's a bunch of different artists that showed up and wanted to be a part of that mixtape when I put it together. Didn't make a dime off the shit neither. Didn't ask for anything. And then, I mean, it's selling. You can go purchase it if you want to, but it's just not something that I'm making money off, because I literally purposefully set it up to be pushed out there, but closed down the accounts. So I don't see any of the money. I did that on purpose so that people can listen to the music. But if they buy it for themselves. You know what I'm saying? I'm not getting anything from it, And if I am able to collect off of it, even eventually, I'll still just do my due diligence. I'm not the type of person, and I said this to like the last person I had an argument with about this, because my second release that came which was what was it called there? FB's HOT would have been the third release that I dropped, because the second one was actually my first album. But it ended up coming out. It ended up getting, taken down because I had an issue with an artist out in London. He thought I was trying to steal his music. So from that point is when I stopped doing artist, mixtapes and shit with my name on it. So it was that part of it that made me just say, all right, well, because at first I was just being grateful that I was able to get artists an opportunity to put their music on streaming platforms anywhere. And it's sort of like a playlist, if you ask me. It's just under my name. That's the only difference. It was literally a playlist that I set up that was just under my name. And it got a lot of people to, it got a lot of people to notice the page. It got a lot of people to notice, the music. And they showed, they paid homage to it. But I realized that wasn't the way to go. So I immediately cut that short. And that particular album was just the last one that was stuck up there.
So let me ask you this, man. So you're out here, you got this mixtape going on. You're promoting these artists and you're not asking for no money, bro. So actually artists from different countries are really like upset about the situation that you got their music streaming?
Yeah, I had one artist. He was in particular. I don't want to say his name, but he's a London artist. He really got he got in his feelings. So maybe 2017, I got into it with this kid because in 2016, he hit me up and he was like, he hit me in 2015, like late 2015. It was after I released that album, the Coming Out Hard album. And it was like he seen that. He's like, oh man, I want to get a piece of that. When you gonna have the next mixtape going on? And I want to get in on it. All right, cool. The song he had put up for that mixtape, I don't like to talk down about other artists, but it wasn't good. It just wasn't good. It was actually really terrible. But it was one of the last songs. It was literally it was a filler, if you ask me, because I was trying to put out another 20-track album for, that mixtape. And I had a couple other songs that I was putting on there myself. So I was like, all right, maybe I can, maybe I can just use it to fill in the slots. You know what I mean? And I did. And when it came out, it had been out for about a year and a half. Then some out of nowhere, I get a message from this guy on Facebook, and he's like, "Are you taking a piss on me?" Like, dude, what the fuck does that mean? I don't know what the fuck you mean. Like, I had no idea what this insult meant to me and was supposed to mean to me. And I mean, like, then I get told I'm a crackhead, all kind of shit like that. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But if you have a problem with the fact that I'm releasing music and you think I'm getting money for it, but I'm not, because I'm posting it on platforms that are paying you to fucking, that are making you pay for it, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Because I'm definitely sure not motherfucking the one that's motherfucking getting the money for it. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And he's like, well, I need you to take I need to take my song off the track list, and I take my song off the album, blah, blah, blah. If I take your song off the album, that means I have to take the whole album down. Damn. That's what I said to him. And I said that there was other artists that actually wanted to be on this album, regardless of what you're saying. Wanted to be there. But okay, so that's how we doing it. I ended up taking it down eventually because he started threatening to call lawyers. And personally, I'm not in the industry to be literally small time like I am and then get sent to court for a bunch of crap. Even though it would have been him coming from all the way across the pond to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm just not into that. You know what I mean? And I didn't get into that particular part of it for that. It was always just so I could, give everybody the same exposure that I'm trying to reach for myself.
Amen.
And I always believe in that whole thing, all for one and one for all. I don't know. A lot of people might have lost interest in that concept after a while. I mean, I know this ain't the Three Musketeers and all. But that's how I grew. That's the kind of lifestyle I wanted to lead growing up into this music. I didn't want to be the person that fuck everybody. I made it on my own and all this shit. I was like, nah, I made it, but I made it to the point where I was able to not only just walk through the door by myself, but I walked through that bitch with a bunch of niggas with me. You feel me?
Right.
And that was kind of the idea that I had in my head, but apparently, in the music industry, we have to always realize that every artist is their own person and they actually have their own individual opportunities. So they have to be able to acquire them themselves and be able to walk through them doors themselves. And you can't just give them the actual welcoming mat so that they can walk through with you while you get, grace to walk into the stage, So that's the biggest thing for me. And it's just like afterwards, it was just like, all right, cool. So I ain't working with nobody. The only way I'm working with you is if I'm able to feature with you. And I just kind of like closed that down until I found out about BandLab. And once I found BandLab, I was like, oh yeah, I work with you, collaborations, all that shit. Let's go.
That's dope.
I got no problem with it.
Yeah, man. So 2016, man, Spotify, blow your mind.
Yeah, that was one of my old singles. Actually, that single itself, when it was released in 2016, was actually about 6 years old at that time. Because I recorded that song in 2010, and I was shopping it around, but I was really holding on to it to be a part of my album, my very first album that I was going to release, which was going to be called Different Faces of the Game. So I just was like, I'm going to hold on to this. I really want people to hear it, to see what it sounds like. My cousin, on the other hand, he had other plans. So when he first got a hold of it, after he just came home from prison, he was like, oh, fuck that. He plays it every day. He driving down the street, no license, up and down the highway, all booming the shit out of the song. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess this is what we gonna do then. Eventually, I got to a point where I was able to find a distribution network that would let me, release it. So that's when I got to that point where I put it on Spotify and everything. So I was like, it could be, to me, I feel like, that was my earlier project. A lot of those projects were, when I was trying to produce and record music on my own. So I had the Fruity Loops program. I had the laptop. I was, you know, using a stage mic that I had, a plug that I would use to a friend of mine's desktop computer. So whenever I would make a beat on my computer on my laptop, I would send it over to his desktop, and then we go recording and have a session on his desktop. You know what I mean? With the fucking with the studio, with the stage mic and shit, the old stage mic, where we had to put a sock over the motherfucker to get to kill the noise, you know what I mean, for noise cancellation, because that shit was like catching everything. Like, and we had to use it. We set it up in his closet that was literally across from his room, so it was pretty cool at first. The relationship between us working on the music was viable at one point, where we was just banging out tracks. We record, or produce tracks to record, and then all of a sudden it got to a point where it just stopped. He kind of felt like it was going nowhere for him. Plus he was, from Seattle. He didn't really give a shit about the music. All he cared about was money. And I was like, all right, dude. I guess this is the end of our relationship, because he started scrubbing shit. He sent me files of like a flash drive of like all my songs that I had recorded that were ready, that were done. None of the ones that were unfinished, but all the ones that were done. Then he scrubbed this whole computer and sold the shit. I'm like, damn, that's what we doing? I guess you didn't really want to be a part of the music thing. And I had already got him amped up in it and all that shit. I was like, shit, nigga, Obama was president. We made a black man president just now. Man, this should be a point where you be ready to go for this shit. Like, no. He was like, no. He's like, no, this ain't happening. But yeah, it was a pretty cool song when I first came up with it. I had a lot of people that liked it when I performed it a cappella versus how I performed it on the recording, which I didn't have a problem with it either way. You know what I mean? I thought it was a really dope song altogether. I just think that if I were to ever given the chance to go back into it and re-record, I could do it 10 times better.
Yeah.
That's a lot of projects that I've recorded back at that point in time that I wish I could go back and record, but I just don't have the instrumentals, or you know what I mean? That's the only thing really, is the instrumentals now. It's like, because now that I have BandLab, I can really go back and do them all, but I just don't have the project. I don't have any of the beats anymore.
The FB's HOT.
Yeah, the FB's HOT. That was the Notorious Third project that I brought up, and upon bringing that up, I had promised for that, because there was so many dope MCs that had hit me up. I got some hits from an artist out in Houston, and a bunch of different artists from just all over Facebook that I had interacted with in groups on Facebook, music groups on Facebook, and they were really interested in what I was doing. And they just wanted to be a part of the releases. So I didn't have no problem with that either. I really didn't. All of their stuff was ready to go. It was mixed and mastered. It was copywritten. So I didn't have no problem with it. Even if if push come to shove, if I was doing something wrong, I would have seen it. And it's normal when you get a notification like from the distribution center that says, hey, you can't release this because of this. Because I had a distribution center at that point that actually would identify songs, whether they were pre-released, unreleased, or not. But if they had a copyright ID on them, they would automatically be pinged if they weren't your shit. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have a problem with that. That's why I was like, oh, cool. These guys wanted to give me these tracks. They want their music released. So I just want to help them out, just like I'm helping myself, and I have an outlet. I have a way to do it. And I can actually get something going for it. Well, when I actually got these guys' musics together and then added my own stuff with it. You know, we had something there. You know, there was so much going on. There was a lot of good tracks. Shout out to the kid ATM. He just kept hitting me with multiple tracks. That's why I have like a few tracks with him on there. I just got so many music sent in to me from these guys that they were just, you know, it was a blessing. It was like, man, I love this. This is amazing, you know. But then it just turned into something crazy about a year and a half later after this kid from London came around, and you know, he literally was the last entry on the whole track list, and he's not the last song, but he was the last entry, and it was like, dude, just everybody else who's doing this with me, everybody else who's involved in this. Now, mind you, I have been in constant contact. Everybody else that was involved, even after the release of the mixtape, they all got their ISRC codes. They all got the code. They all got each and every code to their songs. Every song that they had that I released under those mixtapes, they got codes for. So where did I do anything wrong? You know what I mean? And I'm just saying to myself, I didn't feel like I did anything wrong when I was doing what I did, because I was doing it for the benefit of them, not for me. You know, and like I told them in messages multiple times, if anything comes in, I'm spreading it to y'all. I'm giving it to y'all first, so y'all have your credit. I'm not that type of person. You know what I'm saying? I don't want nobody running up to me with a fucking lawsuit talking about millions of dollars for something that I, you know, released under my name that was theirs. You know, but yeah, that's why I said I think that was the time when I realized that it was just time for me to stop doing, you know, mixtapes like that, and try to just work on my artistry as a person, you know, and figure out how I could broadcast myself first and get people to notice who I am first, and then work on if I want to bring out another artist or promote a mixtape for artists, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that, because then it's a little easier, you know what I mean? And then they're not they're not feeling like they're being put on a wire and just strung out there and left for dead, you know what I mean, type of thing. So I don't want people to feel that way when it comes to them, you know, submitting music to me no more. So like at the end of the day, that's why I don't even ask for it now. And the only way you submit your music to me now is if you want me to listen and review it. You know, so that's kind of the method that I developed after the whole, you know, incident with the artist from London. So I was just like, nah, I'm not doing this to myself again, and I refuse to put myself in that kind of situation. It's not working. It just isn't. You know, and I'm willing to go to bat for a person if I like what you're doing and I appreciate your work. But I'm not gonna let you just, you know what I mean, try to make me look like a music jacking thief or some shit, because that's not me. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell am I gonna do with a song? Like, first and foremost, at the time that this whole thing was going on, I had literally only been 2 years blind. You know. So what was I gonna do with this music, even if you thought I was stealing it? Like, I don't understand that shit. Like, it was even funnier to hear it from this particular artist, because once he said that, and I reflected back to the damn song that he played, it still beats my head up every day when I think about it. It's like, dude, this song is absolute garbage, and it just really got. He just like took it so hard. He was taking it so serious. Like, dude, he's like, I'm on the radio and TV out here in my town. I'm the man out here. Blah, blah, blah. Listen, you know how many people I've asked from London about this kid, and they have never heard of him, but he's on TV everywhere in London, supposedly. He's talking about, you know, he's associated with a Turkish mafia out there. I'm like, dude, come on now. Get the fuck out of here.
All right, man. So I'll be right here for you. 2016, man.
I'll be right here for you. Oh man. So okay, when I that was actually, let me tell you some significance about that song. I'll Be Here For You. When I first recorded that song, there's two parts to this song. The first verse, I recorded that verse right after what it was like 2010. It was like 2010, 2011. Might have been 2011. All right, but 2012 by like 20 was like, man, actually was 2010. I recorded the first part in 2010. Right, I got sick and I ended up in the hospital for about 6 weeks. And it took me a while to recover. I was on a ventilator for a while. And after I got off and I got back on my feet, well, I'm, moving around and shit again. 2012, like the winter, fall of 2012, I actually finished that song. So I did the second part and I recorded it. And afterwards, I was like holding on to it, like I did with the Blow Your Mind song. I was just holding on to it. So it wasn't released anywhere. It was just something I listened to at home because I wrote this song about my ex, or who is now my girl and my daughter's mother. So like, it's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? I wrote this song about her because, it was just something that I felt like I put this together because it was just something between me and her. So like, I loved the song when I first did it. When I first thought of it, because there was so much involvement as far as like the time that we met, what was going on. I remember the first time that I came around. We was walking around with your cousin, because this is actually some shit that actually happened. You know what I mean? A lot of the stuff in the song just really was stuff that was going on with us and that had actually taken place. And then the love like broke into what it was and what it is today. So like, yeah, that was one of my, most favorite songs to me, because it actually gives me the reflective mind that I think about whenever I think about my girl now, because I always go back to the first day that we met. It was cold as hell outside. I had just came to see her. I was actually supposed to be meeting her friend and dating her and talking to her friend. Ended up getting with her. And just that's how it turned out. Yeah, that's how the whole thing turned out. It was crazy. Like, after me and her got together, she broke up with her boyfriend, and then like I had already, I was already single, so it didn't really matter to me. It was crazy. I love her still to this day. She's my heart, and my little girl, my little 1-year-old we have together. That's a lot, So I made that song out of a way to reflectively remember her and keep her in my heart all the time.
Oh, yeah.